What was the absolute worst babysitting job imaginable? My friend Stella called me in tears, begging me to watch her kids for a few hours because her mom had just suffered a heart attack. When I arrived at her house, her taxi was already pulling out of the driveway. She rolled down the window to warn me that her ex-husband Ryan had lost custody last month after he broke Josh's arm and had been driving past the house lately. I didn't even get a chance to reply before she sped away. The kids were watching TV when I walked inside. 8-year-old Ava looked up at me with wide eyes and asked, "Are you staying with us until Mom comes back?" I told her yes. Josh whispered, "He's not supposed to be here." The judge said he got angry because I spilled juice and grabbed my arm and twisted it until it snapped. You know those moments that just shatter your world. The ones where, in an instant, everything you thought you knew about safety, about trust, just evaporates. I remember the exact moment I felt it, the sheer, gut-wrenching terror that coiled in my stomach, leaving me wondering if any of us would make it out alive. We were just settling in, Ava and Josh, ready for a movie night. Mom had taught them this rule. If he comes here, we're supposed to hide and call 911. And even then, my heart ached for them. Every car that passed made them jump. Then those headlights, they swept across the living room like a predator's gaze, and Ava's nails dug into my arm so hard I thought they'd break skin. "That's Dad's car," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Josh just started shaking beside me, instinctively covering the cast on his arm. Then came the knocks. 3 hard, deliberate thuds that rattled the whole doorframe. Ryan's voice, sickeningly cheerful, called out, "Ava, Josh, it's Daddy. Open up." Both kids scrambled behind the couch, Ava shaking uncontrollably, crying silently. More knocking, harder now. "I know you're in there." Ryan screamed. I saw a shadow through the window, an insistent, angry shape. "Don't make Daddy angry." I peered through the peephole. A man in a wrinkled dress shirt, swaying slightly, and even through the thick wood, I could smell the alcohol. Then Ryan's voice again, dripping with menace. "Kids, I can hear the TV. Just visited Grandma this morning. Guess the stress was too much for her old heart." My blood ran cold. What had he done? I pulled out my phone, fingers fumbling for 911, but Ryan must have heard something. He pressed his face against the door. "I know Stella's not there. I watched her leave, running to the hospital. Is she?" I stayed silent, dialing, my hands trembling. He screamed, "This is my house," and started pounding with both fists. "Josh, you know what happens when you don't listen." The kids were sobbing now, their tiny bodies racked with fear. Suddenly, the pounding stopped. Footsteps walked away. I risked a peek through the side window. Ryan was heading to his car, opening the trunk. He pulled out a tire iron. My breath hitched. He spun back, shouting, "Last chance! Open this door, or I'm coming in." There was no time to think. I grabbed both kids, dragging them upstairs, scrambling for the bathroom. Ava, wise beyond her 8 years, whispered, "Lock the door. He can't break the lock." We tried, but it felt flimsy, useless. Then a horrifying crash from downstairs. The front window. He was in. I heard him knocking out the remaining shards of glass, then the sickening shuffle of his footsteps inside the house. Ryan's voice, disturbingly calm now, drifted up the stairs. "Where are my kids? Daddy just wants to talk. Tell you all about my morning visit with Grandma." I was on with 911, whispering our address, the dispatcher telling me units were coming, but to stay hidden. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Ryan's chilling narrative continued. She looked so surprised to see me. Started clutching her chest right away. You should have seen her face when I told her what Stella has been planning. The kids exchanged a look of pure horror. The footsteps stopped. Right outside the bathroom. The doorknob turned. Slowly, deliberately. Ryan's voice, right outside the door, "Found you." Then a massive bang as he kicked the door. The wood cracked but held. Another kick, and the frame started splintering. He screamed, "You can't hide from me." Between kicks, he yelled, "Josh, remember what happened to your puppy when you tried to tell the teacher about Daddy?" Josh started hyperventilating, his small chest heaving, and Ava had to cover his mouth to muffle his sobs. The kicking grew more frantic, more pieces of wood flying. "I've got all night, and when I get in there, we're going to have a family meeting about respect." The door was barely holding. Then sirens in the distance. Ryan heard them too. His kicks became frantic, desperate. "Open this door. They're my kids." The door finally gave way, hanging by one hinge. Ryan stood there, the tire iron in his hand, his face purple with rage, breathing hard. He looked at Josh's cast, and a sick, twisted smile spread across his face. "Want me to match the other arm?" Josh screamed. I pulled both kids behind me, my body a shield. Ryan glared at me. "Who are you? You think you can keep me from my kids?" He stepped into the bathroom, raising the tire iron above his head. I shoved the kids into the tub, snatching the flimsy shower curtain rod, holding it up, trying to block him. He just laughed, swinging the tire iron down, knocking the rod from my hand so hard my palms went numb. He raised it again, aiming for my head this time. I covered the kids with my body, bracing for the impact. Just then, red and blue lights flooded through the window. Ryan looked back, then at the kids. "Tell them you want to come with Daddy. Tell them, or—" A police officer's voice boomed from downstairs. "Police, drop the weapon!" I screamed. "Up! He's got a weapon." 2 officers appeared in the doorway, weapons drawn. Ryan dropped the tire iron, raising his hands. "These are my kids. I have rights." They cuffed him, pulling him out. At the top of the stairs, he twisted back, that horrible smile still on his face. "Check the trunk of her car. Go check what's in Stella's trunk. Check what she did." I stood there, holding the crying kids, my hand shaking, wondering, what did he mean? Through the shattered window, I could just make out Stella's car, still parked, the trunk barely visible in the darkness. Ava looked at me, wide-eyed. "What's in Mommy's trunk?" I didn't know how to answer. The police were everywhere. 1 officer guided us to the living room, while others fanned out, searching the house, hands on their weapons as they opened each door. Ava's fingernails dug into my palm, a lifeline. Josh tugged my shirt. "Is Dad really gone this time?" I told him yes, but my voice shook. We could still hear Ryan screaming from the back of the patrol car. The officer with us had kind eyes, but kept glancing at the windows, talking into his radio. More police cars pulled up, lights still flashing, painting the night with frantic color. An officer started photographing the broken glass, the muddy footprints, the splintered bathroom door. Josh started shaking again when they photographed the tire iron. I pulled both kids close, humming the song my mom used to sing when storms scared me. My phone rang. Stella. Her voice cracked, asking if we were okay, hospital sounds in the background. I told her Ryan was arrested, the kids were safe, but the house, it was damaged. She asked what happened, and I explained the tire iron, the door. Then, almost as an afterthought, I mentioned what Ryan screamed about her trunk. The line went silent for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Finally, she whispered something I couldn't make out over the sirens. The officer in charge came over, asked to speak to Stella. They needed permission to check her car. On speaker, her voice tight, not like her at all, she agreed. 2 officers walked to her car, flashlights cutting through the dark. They popped the trunk. I saw them look at each other, then one called for a detective. The trunk light illuminated 2 small suitcases. Inside, passports with the kids' pictures, a thick envelope full of cash, a cheap burner phone. My stomach twisted. I understood. Stella had been planning to run. Ava saw my face change. "What's wrong with Mommy's car?" Josh started crying. "Is Mom going to leave us with Dad?" I told the mom would never leave them. She was just being extra careful. The words felt wrong, a bitter taste in my mouth. Why hadn't she told me? The next morning, Stella's taxi pulled up, her face etched with a decade of worry. Hair messy, makeup smeared. She saw her open trunk, the bags lined up, and her face crumbled. She dropped to her knees, pulling the kids into a tight hug, but I felt this new, unsettling distance between us. What else hadn't she told me about Ryan or her plans? That night, Stella confessed. The stuff in her trunk wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Cash saved from groceries, passports hidden after Ryan threatened to take them to Canada, a burner phone to call her sister in Oregon. She'd been planning to leave next week, driving straight through, because her lawyer said Ryan might get unsupervised visits soon, despite breaking Josh's arm. She couldn't risk him hurting them again when no one was watching. As she was talking, her phone buzzed. A text from her lawyer. Her face went gray as she read it aloud. Ryan had posted bail, $10,000 cash, paid by his parents, and he was already out. His lawyer was filing an emergency motion, claiming Stella was planning parental kidnapping, using the trunk as evidence. The protection order stood, but knowing he was free, probably sitting in his car somewhere, planning his next move, made my skin crawl. The detective, Kenny Meadows, arrived that afternoon. He sat at our kitchen table, notebook in hand, and asked me to go through everything again, especially the threats. He was fascinated by the puppy comment. Had the kids ever mentioned a pet? Any photos? Stella went pale. Max, she whispered, our golden retriever. He disappeared last year, right after I filed for divorce. Just vanished from the backyard. Ryan had told her the dog probably ran away because even animals could sense when they weren't wanted. Meadows wrote it all down. Just then, our neighbor from across the street knocked, holding her phone. Her doorbell camera, she thought, might have caught something. Detective Meadows watched the footage, his jaw tightening. Clear as day, Ryan screaming about the puppy, pulling the tire iron from his trunk, threatening to match Josh's other arm. This is exactly what we needed, Meadows said. Clear evidence of premeditation, specific threats. Days bled into weeks. Thea Chapman from CPS came, a young woman with a clipboard taking photos of the boarded window, the shattered bathroom door. She interviewed the kids. Josh showed her his drawing book, a map of the house with red X's for safe spots, the bathroom circled 3 times. Ava, in her matter-of-fact 8-year-old voice, explained, Dad gets mad and hurts people. Mom taught us to lock doors and call for help. We practice hiding like it's a fire drill, except for when Dad comes and sets a fire. Thea closed her notebook, her expression unreadable. She sat us down, explaining that while the trunk situation was concerning, given Ryan's documented violence, it wouldn't be treated as criminal. Stella's shoulders sagged with relief, but there were conditions, lots of them. A safety plan she had to sign, agreeing not to leave the state without court approval, allowing monthly home visits for 6 months. Her hand shook as she signed each page, Thea warning that any violation would mean immediate review and possible removal of the kids. The legal battle raged on. Ryan's new lawyer, Zachary Prince, sent a thick envelope accusing Stella of alienating the children and planning parental kidnapping. He questioned my involvement, referring to me as a so-called friend. My blood boiled. Then came the Facebook messages from anonymous accounts. You should have minded your own business. I screenshot everything, sending it to Meadows, who confirmed it was likely Ryan's friends. Detective Meadows called with the preliminary autopsy results for Grandma. A massive heart attack, stress hormones through the roof. No physical assault. No murder charge. Just an elderly woman whose heart gave out during an emotionally distressing encounter. Stella broke down completely, sobbing that her mom died scared and alone, thinking her daughter was in danger. My own world started to crack. At work, I was making stupid mistakes, missing meetings. My supervisor, Janet, pulled me aside. I started to make an excuse, but then just blurted out, family emergency, violence, court cases. Without a word, She gave me 3 days off. "Take care of yourself," she said. That evening, Stella and I sat on her back porch. She told me things I'd never known about her marriage. How Ryan had hidden their passports, threatened to take the kids to Canada, where the custody laws were different. Suddenly, the trunk made perfect sense. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation, born of actual threats. We started rebuilding our defenses. New locks, cameras at every entrance, an official emergency contact at school. The kids picked butterfly as their code word for danger, and it made Stella tear up. She'd always told them they'd fly away free someday like butterflies. The school principal called in a panic. "A flower delivery for the kids. Daddy loves you and misses you. See you soon." Not a violation, but a clear scare tactic. Josh threw up from anxiety. Ava hid under her bed. Dr. Finley, a child trauma therapist, started working with them. Josh wasn't using his right arm, even though his left was broken. Ava was pulling out her eyelashes. The trauma was real. At the protection order hearing, Ryan sat at his table in a new suit, staring straight ahead. When Zachary Prince tried to imply I was confused, scared, and inaccurate, the prosecutor played the doorbell footage. The courtroom fell silent. You could hear Ryan's voice, clear as day, threatening Josh's puppy. The judge leaned forward, asking to hear it again. She granted the no-contact order, demanding a psychological evaluation for Ryan. He jumped up, yelling, pointing at Stella, screaming that she was poisoning his kids against him. Security guards had to drag him out, his voice echoing, "This isn't over!" Hours later, my phone exploded. Ryan had posted a long rant on Facebook, calling Stella a kidnapper, claiming I helped her steal his children, demanding people share his post for justice. Strangers messaged Stella, calling her a terrible mother. Someone messaged me. They know where I worked. I screenshotted everything, my phone filling up. Miranda came over, helping me organize it all. Every car that drove by we checked. Every car door slam, Josh froze. Ava kept her shoes on. We were constantly watching. Then, at the grocery store, a car backfired. Suddenly, I was back in that bathroom, Ryan kicking, kids screaming. My chest tightened, my hands went numb. A kind stranger helped me to a bench. I called the crisis hotline number Detective Meadows had given me, and they stayed on the phone until I could breathe again. Meadows called again later that week. They had enough evidence for serious charges, but Ryan's lawyer was pushing for a plea deal. Probation instead of jail. The thought of him walking free made me sick. Meadows explained trials were unpredictable. Kids would have to testify. Sometimes a guaranteed outcome was better than risking him walking free completely. 2 days later, Stella's mother-in-law sent a letter to the kids at school, claiming, "Daddy loves them." Josh threw up again. We documented it. The judge added a provision. No third party could pass messages. While all this was happening, Stella was drowning in bills. Miranda and our friends started helping discreetly. Someone fixed the door frame. Someone dropped off groceries. My coworker's brother installed a better lock. The therapist showed us Josh's drawings. Stick figures hiding in bathtubs, a huge monster with a tire iron for a hand. He'd drawn himself with 2 casts, even though only one arm was broken. Ava was writing stories about girls with 3 escape plans. These were coping mechanisms, the therapist said, but clear trauma. Meadows stopped by again, showing us a gas station receipt and security footage of Ryan pumping gas, bouquet in hand, an hour before Grandma's heart attack. He'd lied about being at work. Not enough for murder, but it placed him at the scene, adding another lie to his growing pile. Stella was subpoenaed, her bank records scrutinized, every cash withdrawal, every travel website. She threw up twice in the courthouse bathroom before her deposition. Valerie Tran, the assistant DA, prepared me for the preliminary hearing, warning me Zachary would try to make me look unreliable. We practiced my answers until I could describe the tire iron swinging toward my head without crying. A neighbor came forward with a wider-angle doorbell video showing Ryan stumbling from his car, drunk, pulling out the tire iron. His face, perfectly visible under a streetlight, was a picture of malicious intent. Meadows said it was exactly what they needed. I'd been getting messages from fake social media accounts for weeks, all saying I'd regret getting involved. Valerie added witness intimidation to the charges. At the family court hearing, the judge spent an hour reviewing everything. Ryan would need a full year of battery intervention classes, and all visits would be supervised at a professional center. Stella squeezed my hand so hard I thought my fingers would break. We knew it meant this would drag on, but it also meant the kids were protected. Ryan jumped up, screaming, "This isn't over!" as the bailiffs dragged him out. That night, Stella finally told me the full truth about the burner phone, the safe house addresses, the hidden funds. She'd bought it specifically to plan her escape with her sister. Her honesty, surprisingly, helped rebuild trust with CPS. We spent a whole day installing metal bars on windows, door alarms, letting the kids pick every spot. They chose butterfly, again, for their family code word for danger, and it broke my heart hearing Josh practice saying it in a calm voice, just like his therapist taught him. Ryan's first supervised visit was a disaster. He showed up late, agitated, demanding to be alone with his kids. Josh pressed against the wall, refusing to make eye contact. Ryan's face went red. He stood up so fast his chair tipped, making both kids flinch. The supervisor stepped in, and Ryan stormed out, the visit lasting less than 15 minutes. Weeks later, in the courthouse waiting room, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Valerie had all our evidence in neat folders. The bailiff called us in. Ryan was there, with Zachary, his suit looking too big. Valerie played the doorbell camera footage, the audio of Ryan screaming about the puppy. The judge's face hardened. Then my 911 call. Hearing my own terrified whisper, Ryan's kicks in the background, made my stomach clench. Valerie showed the screenshots of the Facebook threats, traced to IP addresses near Ryan's work. Zachary tried to paint Ryan as a desperate father. The judge looked at him like he was an idiot. When it was my turn to testify, my legs felt like jelly. For 40 minutes, I answered questions, my voice steady, even when Zachary tried to imply I was confused or lying. When he asked if I'd misunderstood Ryan's intentions, I just pointed at the screen, where the tire iron was still visible in his hand. "No," I said, "I did not misunderstand." The judge asked if I feared for our safety. "Yes," I said without hesitation. She returned after 20 minutes. Probable cause for all charges: breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, violating the protection order, and witness intimidation. Ryan's face went bright red. Zachary pulled him back down. 2 days later, Valerie called. Ryan was being offered a plea deal: 2 years probation, complete the batterer program, keep the no-contact order, supervised visits, give up any guns. It wasn't as much as we wanted, but Valerie explained trials were risky. If he took the deal, we had guaranteed protection. If we went to trial and lost, he could walk free. The next week, the family court judge looked at the evidence of Stella packing to run. She told Stella that planning to flee was wrong, even if she was scared. But then she looked at the photos of Josh's broken arm, the police reports, and said she understood why a mother might panic. Travel restrictions were put in place, but Stella kept custody. She started crying right there in the courtroom. Ryan's lawyer called that afternoon to say he'd take the plea deal. A month later, Thea from CPS called. Quarterly check-ins now instead of weekly. The family was making good progress. Josh was using his right arm again. Ava wasn't pulling her eyelashes. It felt like maybe, just maybe, we could stop holding our breath. I noticed changes in myself, too. I wasn't jumping at every car door slam, though I still checked the locks 3 times. I always picked seats facing exits. My therapist said these were normal trauma responses. Stella was the same. One afternoon, Stella apologized for not telling me about the trunk. She'd been so scared of losing the kids. We agreed to be completely honest from now on, and she added me to all the school forms, all the medical papers as an emergency contact. Trust wasn't all the way back, but we were working on it, step by painful step. The supervised visits happened every other Saturday. The kids handled them better now, learned they could say no to hugs, ask for breaks. The supervisor noted Ryan followed the rules, but clearly hated the restrictions. He kept asking when he could see them alone. That wasn't his decision anymore. Valerie called the next week to update me on Ryan's compliance. He was showing up to every batterer intervention session. He hadn't tried contacting us, no social media, no third parties. His GPS ankle monitor showed he was staying away. She still told me to document everything, though. I'd already filled 2 notebooks. The insurance adjuster came. Miranda showed up with a check from her church. The new, reinforced windows and metal bars were installed. We went outside and planted sunflowers beneath them. Detective Meadows officially closed the active investigation, handing me his business card with his personal cell written on the back. He said what we did that night, staying calm, calling for help, probably saved all our lives. I put his card in my wallet, right behind my driver's license. Josh came to me one evening. He'd been sleeping without the hallway light for 3 nights. Ava had stopped pulling her eyelashes, was back to reading 3 books a week, writing stories with really good security systems. Their therapist said they were making excellent progress, but would need continued support. Stella and I sat on her back porch, coffee getting cold in our hands. I told her I couldn't keep being available for every crisis. I needed to rebuild my own life. I'd still babysit, stay on emergency contacts, but new boundaries were set. She'd started building her own support network, a single moms group, other parents at school. The court sent thick envelopes with the final orders. Supervised visits for a full year. Stella couldn't leave the state for 6 months. Kids in therapy. Ryan completing his program, psych evaluation. Every rule, every consequence spelled out. We installed 1 more camera covering the backyard. The kids helped, showed me their new safety map with hiding spots in the garage and basement. We practiced butterfly as our code word. Then a miracle. Ryan's supervised visit at the park went better than anyone expected. The supervisor texted updates, pictures of Ryan pushing Josh on the swings, Josh actually smiling. Another photo of him helping Ava across the monkey bars. He followed all the rules. Left right when the hour ended. Driving home from grocery shopping later, I realized something profound. I hadn't constantly checked my mirrors for his car. I hadn't scanned the parking lot for his face. It was a small victory, a tiny breath of freedom. The road ahead is long, and the scars remain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like we might just be okay. What about you? Have you ever had to fight to protect someone you love from a monster, even when that monster was family? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.